5 reasons why you probably shouldn't start developing real estate, and 5 reasons that you probably should. Let's discuss. We bought for about $1 million. The survey came back wrong. The city said we couldn't build 4. We had to get a new survey and fight with the city with an attorney. Sometimes it takes a year, year and a half. Sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5. I'm liable for that person electrocuting themselves to death. Welcome back to Brian Bandis Builds a Business, where we discuss real estate development, business building, and how to do both while staying sane and healthy in mind, body, and spirit. So a couple of weeks ago now, YouTube user Luca Covini left me a comment saying, hey, how do I know when I should start developing real estate? How do I know if I'm ready? Well, that video is coming next, but as I thought about a response to that, I thought, man, I think the first question is, how do I know if I even should try to start developing real estate? So before we answer when should you start doing it, let's spend some time today figuring out if this is even what you want to do. This week, we're looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of real estate development. All right, so listen, reason number 1 to try to learn how to develop real estate is pretty obvious. It's very high earning potential. I would say that I've made more money than ever in my life developing real estate. Now, keep in mind that earnings potential is high because the risk is so high. But this project right here, these 4 units, you know, if all goes to plan, I should make more on this one project than for most of my life than I made per year. So the earning potential is very high. Just keep in mind, that's because you're taking risk. Which brings me to con number 1. This is a high risk game. These 4 units are the perfect way for me to illustrate that. Look at these bad boys. When we started this project over 3 years ago now, we were intending to build these 4 units. We had a nice solid profit margin in there, 6 figures a unit, and the market was going up. So at one point it looked like we were gonna do really, really well. Since then, the survey came back wrong. The city said we couldn't build 4. We had to get a new survey and fight with the city with an attorney. Then we could build 4, but we had to do a stormwater permit. So that took about $45,000 and about 8 months. Well, maybe it was a year. Once we got that back, then we had to work on our normal building permit. At that point, they made us change the plans because it didn't look right at the street. Finally, we start building as the market begins to crash. Maybe not crash, maybe soften. We get to the end, and instead of them saying, okay, you're fine, they say, oh, actually, that whole stormwater permit you paid $45,000 for, that has changed. So now we have to build about a 100-foot culvert to divert the stormwater back into this alley. It's okay though, they don't mind if we pay for it. Took us 3.5 years to finish this project, and now we're selling them, and we are either gonna break even or maybe even lose, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 per unit. That, my friends, is a high-risk game. Very little to none of that was in our control. And so that's the trade-off. High risk, high reward. Now, here is reason number 2 to check out real estate development, and that's that in addition to having a high earning potential, you also have a really high leverage potential. Meaning, you can potentially make a whole bunch of money, and you can potentially do it without trading a whole bunch of your time. So the reason I'm standing in front of this little gem of a house is because last year I did a video about the high leverage returns I got on this house. We bought this house to build the second house behind it. I didn't even build this one. So I probably put in a total of, say, 20 hours. I found some investor partners, bought the land, found the builders, gave them the plans, and then they built it. And by the time I was done, now granted, we timed the market really well on this one, we made multiple 6 figures, and I probably put 20 hours into the whole deal. That is really high leverage. Now that being said, it is high leverage, but there is a flip side to that, of course. And the con is, it's also pretty cash intensive. And so you really have 2 options. You either have to be willing to outlay a pretty good amount of your cash and live without it for a while, or you've got to bring on partners, which is a great idea because it allows you to do deals. However, it also means you're splitting your profits. So on this one, I actually did not have partners. I know I lied a second ago and said I found partners. I didn't have partners on this one, I did it myself. But that also means that the down payment and the carrying costs for this entire project had to come out of my pocket, and it was all up front until I finished the project and sold the house. So real estate development, while offering really awesome high leverage opportunities, can also be really cash intensive, and you gotta be okay with that. You gotta be in a position where you have access to a decent amount of your own money that you don't need immediately, or an amount of somebody else's money that they don't need immediately. Now, Another awesome reason for you to consider learning how to develop real estate is that there is immense opportunity. Let me tell you what I mean. You may notice that in this house, if you look out this big window in the living room, you're looking at the back of another house. This deal came about because I learned that you could build two on a specific type of zoning, and I found this house for sale on the local MLS. I made them an offer knowing that I could build, rent out the front, build a new one, sell the front at least for what I paid for it, and that gave me a free building pad. And the best part is, I didn't have to ask anybody permission. There's no gatekeepers. I didn't have to get hired. I didn't have to wait for somebody to bring me a deal or bring me into some special club. The beauty of real estate development and of real estate investing in general is that it rewards hustle, it rewards learning, it rewards growth, and you have the ability to just decide, I'm gonna go learn how to do that, and I'm gonna make it happen. So simply by learning this little detail about zoning, we were able to put this deal together, and my investors and I will make altogether some version of six figures just by going out, learning something, taking action on it, and putting a deal together. Beautiful opportunity. Now, by the same token, with a lot of opportunity comes a lot of responsibility. And in this job in particular, I find that I wear a lot of hats. Yeah, like that. I'm learning about legal aspects of putting together partnerships. I'm learning about the city code. I'm learning about the building code. I'm following the real estate market and trying to understand what is in and out of style. Trying to understand where supply and demand are at. Trying to have a good idea of how to find a good agent, a good architect, a good lawyer, a good engineer, a good builder. You don't necessarily have to be an expert at all these things, but you gotta have a pretty good idea of a lot of different fields. So that's the flip side. You get a ton of opportunity, you also get a lot of responsibility. Before we finish this list, I'd like to give away one of my books. The book is called Real Estate Development 101, and if you want a copy, here's all you need to do. And what I need you to help me decide is this: do I grow the beard back like I used to rock it? Or do I keep rocking the mustache like my dad did in the 80s? Or maybe the answer is the Fu Manchu. Okay, no, it's definitely not the Fu Manchu. But it could be the beard. Mustache. Beard? Mustache. Beard? Mustache. So here's the deal. Weigh in the comments, cast your vote, because we hit the big issues here on Brian Bandis Builds Business. Cast your vote in the comments, beard, mustache, and somebody who comments a vote, I'm gonna send you a free copy of this book, Real Estate Development 101. If you don't win it, you can always snag it on Amazon. It's like $10 or less. Now, back to the pros and cons of real estate development. Now, reason number 4 to consider learning how to develop real estate is that, to be honest with you, it's just a lot of fun, man. These houses that we put up next to, like really close to downtown in East Nashville, they turned out awesome. And I'm proud of them. It's cool to walk through them and to think at some point, some family is gonna live here and call this home, and I built it. Not to mention, check this out. How rad is this? I mean, that's a direct killer view of the downtown skyline here in Nashville. So there's something about adding to the look of your city, adding to the skyline and creating these lasting buildings that people will call home for decades, and getting to make decisions about what style of building, what do we want it to look like, and different design selections and all that. It's really fun. Now on the flip side, con number 4 is that it's incredibly demanding. Just look at this punch list. And by the way, Foster, this project that I'm at, is 4 units. This is the punch list for unit 1 after we're pretty much done. So it's a pretty highly demanding job. And the fact is, and I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but unlike some people, my work does not stop at 5. I don't leave it at the office. The buck stops with me. So when we have problems, I get that phone call. In fact, I got a phone call late one night that someone had run into a power pole in front of this property, knocked it over. There was a live power line laying on the ground in front of our property, and that if somebody touched it before it was fixed, we were liable. So if somebody walks over and grabs this power line on the ground because they're freaking morons, the one that somebody else ran into because they're freaking morons, I'm liable for that person electrocuting themselves to death. So the point is, really fun, but there's always a trade-off, and the trade-off is It's very demanding. It's far more demanding than a job where somebody tells you what to do and then at 5 o'clock you clock out and you're done. Now, the last reason that I'll share that I love real estate development, and you might also, is the size of the deals. I love it. I love the high risk, high reward, high intensity, big deals. It's an adventure. Well, then why am I standing in front of this piece of crap? I'll tell you. This big commercial lot, we bought for about $1 million. And hopefully sometime soon, there are 10 commercially zoned townhouses for Airbnb use that are going up on this lot. And I love the scale of that, right? I love the numbers. I love the adventure of trying to pull something like that off. It's sort of a thrill or a rush that I never got with, you know, flipping houses and smaller deals. So to me, there's something to be said for doing that big old fat deal and just trying to pull off something that maybe younger me couldn't have even imagined. Now, the flip side of that is when you do bigger deals, you do have a much longer deal life cycle. In fact, on this deal, we've been working on permitting for well over a year. We're not even starting to build yet, and we're really still several months away from doing anything in terms of digging in the dirt and starting to build anything. Did I mention it took 3.5 years to build these townhouses? You gotta be able to sit with your money tied up for that long without you having access to it. Sometimes it takes a year, year and a half, sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5. That's a good point, Brian. So while it is really fun and exhilarating and very fulfilling and satisfying, at least to me, to do these bigger deals, you do have to realize that this isn't the same timeline as being a real estate agent or selling a car or something like that. It can take years from start to finish. Now, there's no way that those are possibly all of the pros and all of the cons to real estate development, but those are some of the main ones that jumped out at me. Me personally, I feel called to do this in my life, and honestly, that calling is crucial because, as you may have heard from the list of cons, sometimes this is very difficult. Sometimes it is painful and challenging and scary and extremely uncomfortable. And frankly, if I wasn't called to do it, if I didn't feel like I was doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, I'd bail out of this. It's fun, it's rewarding, it's definitely not for everyone. And that's why, before I answer when should I start, I want you to watch this video and give some serious thought to, do I actually want to do that? Do I like this enough that that list of cons is worth it? Is the show worth the price of admission? That's the question. So next video, I'll let you know who won the free book, and we'll be discussing that very question. When should I start? How do I know I'm ready? Until then, if you're getting some out of this, as usual, hook me up with one of those, and maybe even one of those. And I'll see you next time.